Dr. Lamb, my name is John Geesman. I've interacted with several of you over the years in a prior life when I served as one of the members of the California Energy Commission between 2002 and 2008. My law firm this year has begun representing the Alliance for Nuclear Responsibility in state regulatory proceedings. I sent you a letter earlier in the week with respect to my suggestion that the Independent Safety Committee take up the question with PG&E and with the NRC of what level of SSHAC review is most appropriate for the seismic reassessment being conducted over the next several years at Diablo Canyon. And that letter lays out several of the selected criteria in the earlier literature published by the NRC, which I think we all recognize Dr. Budnitz's role previously in providing. It also quotes from the criteria established in the most current rephrasing or republication of the SSHAC criteria, New Reg 2117. And I would submit to you that there is no better case anywhere in the world than Diablo Canyon for us to attempt to assemble the very best and most robust academic review of expertise brought to the seismic question here at Diablo Canyon. I think if you walk through the various criteria, you'll recognize that if we are going to conduct this exercise, Diablo Canyon, that we deserve the very best. We deserve a process that inspires the highest level of public confidence in the results. We deserve the very best expertise we can summon from around the world. And I would submit to you the SSHAC Level 4 process as originally developed by Dr. Budnitz and his peers on the SSHAC committee is that process. Now, PG&E last year at their first SSHAC workshop indicated, one of their consultants indicated that the reason they had selected a Level 3 analysis rather than a Level 4 was for reasons, as I think are appropriate, time and money. Since that first SSHAC workshop, several intervening developments have occurred, and I outline those in my letter. Most significantly, the Public Utilities Commission has approved ratepayer funding for what amounts to the largest seismic survey process, data gatherings through enhanced 3D technology in the world. Since that time, the NRC has initiated a fairly open-ended 5054F process. You'll hear from PG&E tomorrow about that, and I apologize for not being able to be here tomorrow. That's why I'm using your public comment process to bring these to your attention. And I am not suggesting that PG&E be placed in the position of intentionally breaking schedules. And I do know the 5054 process does have a somewhat loose calendar associated with it. But the challenge to your committee, I think, is to assure the very best review possible. And I think the last element that has changed since last year's SSHAC workshop is the seismic surveys themselves, the offshore work, has encountered a permitting process that has imposed at least a one-year delay before it's finally completed. And I think when you hear from PG&E, they will corroborate that. As a consequence, I don't think time or money are worthy reasons any longer for not insisting on the very best review that the world's experts can summon. And I would submit to you there is no better place in the world for that process to be undertaken than Diablo Canyon. I thank you very much. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you for your remark, Mr. Geesman. Dr. Butness.
Thanks. Well, no surprise that I'm the one to respond. I've been in the thick of this deliberation for the longest time, and there's a community of people in the seismic business that I'm part of who have been struggling for at least 2 or 3 years with the benefits of the different kinds of SHAC seismic hazard processes. There isn't time to go into this, but when we wrote the report in the late 90s, we identified 4 levels of SHAC, Senior Seismic Hazard Analysis Committee processes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, with the implication that you get more and you get better as the level becomes more intense and more extensive. But we've begun to evaluate carefully whether or not that's really true for the top 2 levels, and that evaluation is still underway, and I'm with another hat on in the thick of that. And it comes down to the fact that when there is a very complex scientific problem for which there aren't enough data to definitively get everybody to agree, yeah, so there's not enough data. And therefore, a range of legitimate interpretations exists, all of which everybody recognizes are all legitimate. Let's imagine, we'll just call them A, B, and C for the moment. There are proponents of A, and proponents of B, and proponents of C. But all the proponents of A agree that B and C might be right. In other words, they can't, it's an honorable disagreement about the interpretations of these complex things. And the proponents of C say, you know, I think I'm right, but A might be right too. And in that situation, we ended up wanting to make sure that every proponent of all these different interpretations not only explained it as best they could, but explained it in the presence of the others, and then they got cross-critique and different interactions. At the end of which, it's possible that some of the proponents would change their mind, and that has happened in other things, or would say, yeah, gee, I hadn't thought about it that way. But in the end, if there are these differences of interpretation, we ended up by trying to develop for the whole process what we call the community distribution. The community distribution is the best understanding of what the whole community thinks, and it might be 3 different things with equal weight, or it might be that, say, they might end up saying, well, A and B are more likely to be right than C, so we'll give the less weight. In the meantime, we've got to go on and get more data to help clarify. And what we have found is that it is really hard to get at least some of the experts to provide a community distribution of their peers. It's really hard, which is what the level 4 thing seeks. And therefore, there are some situations in which a SHAC level 4 thing may be more difficult to execute than a level 3. And for that reason, when the Nuclear Regulatory Commission wrote their guidance on Near-Term Task Force 2.1, which is still in draft, but it's coming out soon, they asked that all the plants do a level 3 SHAC study. But of course, anybody can take exception, and they ought to if there's a better way to do it. So right now, there's a good deal of discussion in the community I'm in about that very subject that you've raised. Okay, and people are thinking hard about which of those approaches could be could produce the best result we can get, because I at least don't want to have anything but the best. Okay, that's simple enough, and that's a discussion's probably go on over the next few weeks or months because the whole community's thinking about it. Okay.
And I don't disagree with anything that you have said, particularly with respect to the question of most difficult. But what I would submit to you, I'm not addressing all of the plants in the United States.
No, we're talking about Diablo Canyon, right here.
We're talking about
yes, sir.
one plant. We're talking about one plant where the Public Utilities Commission has decided these questions are so important that the customers ought to provide initially $64.2 million, but the decision makes very clear that additional costs are reasonably foreseeable and has provided an abbreviated approval process when additional costs come up. So if we are going to make use of this enormous store of data, and no one knows what that data will reveal, I would suggest to you that time is opportune to design the best possible review process you can come up with.
I not only agree with that, I have two comments on that, and then I'll just say them. The first is absolutely. And the second is that what I just said in the last 4 minutes was mine and not the committee's. Okay? I haven't consulted with them, and after some further thought on the part of the whole community people, I will, and then we may have a committee position, but it's not a committee decision. I just happen to be, there's a piece of good fortune here. One of us just happens to be in the thick of this. I mean, because of it's been going on for 15 years, what I do for a living part of it. And secondly, that in any event, we're going to, whatever it goes and however it emerges, we're going to watch that process carefully. And not just me, but I mean, we're all going to watch it because it is, in fact, one of the major drivers for being sure that this plant is as safe as we want it to be.
Right. Now, if I may add to Dr. Butner's response, I think Mr. Geesman,
it's very helpful.
Suggestions very helpful, and I also happen to think I would certainly seek the committee's members' concurrences. That I think it may rise to the level for us to put it on our open item list separately.
We just did, actually. That's what I wrote up. It's the new SC11 that we agreed to 2 hours ago.
Dr. Butner reads my mind.
I just did that.
Right, so, you know, as you are probably well aware, the committee has an open item list of about 100 items, indicative of the breadth and the depth of the committee's inquiries for us to track various items of interest to the committees. So I think, as Dr. Butner just said, you know, if Dr. Peterson's concurrence that we put it on our list and we would track it and at every public meeting.
We can probably try to fast track it. That is, I think this is something that merits attention in a fact finding, and then some response.
You bet.
Once we've done the due diligence to work through
Certainly
the
agree with
necessary detail.
Well, thank you very much, and I do want to say that California is very lucky to have gentlemen of your stature willing to do this work. Well, thank you again.
Yeah, I was going to thank you for raising the issue, which I think provides a perspective about how important it is that we're not going to do this 3 times. We're going to do it once, and we darn well better see that it's done right.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your remark.